that voice, that still voice that you hear in us, is always with you. You don't have to go looking for it. You have to just spend time with you to hear from it, right? A lot of the times we're trying to fix the adult, but it's not the adult that is broken. It's the inner child that is in you. It's the children in us, the child within us that have never been healed from the childhood trauma that is showing up in the adult life. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Money is For You podcast, brought to you in collaboration with Notable Wealth Management Inc. We are in season 2 of the Money is For You podcast, and my name is Jacqueline Correa, the host for this journey. So today today's episode is a little special, and we are going to talk a little bit about why I started Money is For You, and we're going to dive into the psychology of money and your money blueprint. So I've actually brought today some toys. You know, as children, we play with toys. So I thought, I'll bring some people in here with me today to be my illustration for what I'm actually going to talk about. So before I get started, though, so I always believe that everybody can have a successful life. I don't think you have to be the elites to actually have a life in abundance. I believe everybody can have that life. And so when I said money is for you, I truly believe that everybody should and be able to have that money coming to you, flowing to you abundantly. And that was why the name Money is For You came in. When I actually, there was some things happened within my own dynamic, which was with my son, when it first happened, and it had happened a couple of times. And I think it's by the third or fourth time I'd seen it, I realized that there was some patterns. And what I noticed was, it was that he was like emulating, he was saying things that I saw in my mother. And I was like, but wait a minute, this child wasn't raised by my mom. Why is he have all these mannerism and he's speaking the way my mom would speak? What I didn't realize was I was programmed. And so my son was now repeating what he had seen me do. And I didn't realize that. So I actually went down the rabbit hole and I did some research. And in doing my research, I realized that I'd seen some of these patterns also in my clients. So have you ever thought, or have you ever seen situations where one person had a dream and they're manifesting, and their manifestation came to light like quickly, and then the other person, every year they do their goal settings and whatnot, and nothing ever comes of it. And for some reason, years go by and they're still struggling and they're still trying to make ends meet. But here is, I want to call her Diva. Diva says she wants a new car, and within 3 weeks, she got herself a new car. Or she wanted, a partner, a life partner. She gets that partner. She wants to start a business. Everything that she manifests or dreamed about, she's successfully getting it. And then here we have Karen. Yeah, Karen. I like the name Karen because there's always drama coming with Karen. But then Karen is just, no matter what she says, her relationships fall apart, her finances fall apart, and no matter what she does in life, she just never seemed to get ahead. And so in my research, what I've come to realize was, it's not that, Karen, there was nothing wrong. Well, there is some things wrong with Karen, but what Karen is walking around with is somebody else's programming. Right? So here is Karen. She wants to have a good life, but she has childhood trauma that she's never dealt with. And then she has limited beliefs that she has also never dealt with. And she doesn't feel that she's worthy to be wealthy or to have the good things in life. And she says it continuously. And Karen is also very insecure. She doesn't think she's beautiful. She doesn't think she's worthy to have the things she wants in life. And then bigger and more than anything else, she's walking around with OPP, and OPP stands for other people's problems, right? Because she's taking on mom's problems, maybe dad's problems, whatever, maybe her own problems, her children's problems. So she's walking around all these things. And then, last but not least, she has a big ego, and her ego is overcoming opinion of others. So here she is again. She's not too, she's secure because maybe an older sister tells her she wasn't good enough, or maybe a parent didn't tell her she was good enough, or a teacher didn't tell her she was good enough, and all these things now. And she has, like, maybe, let's say Karen is about in her 30s, or maybe even 40s, or even 45, even 50, but she's never dealt with these dramas. So imagine Karen is walking around with this for 50 years on her shoulder. So if she tries to manifest, she'll never ever get it, because all these things are going through her mind, right? These are what she's dealing with. The childhood drama that she never dealt with, which could be, you never know, it could be either she was molested, or she was beaten, or she saw her parents struggle financially. But all these things she's walking around with. And until Karen decides to clean up the trauma, the limited beliefs, the insecurities, other people's property, and overthinking or overcoming other people's opinion, then she could start living the diva's life. And this doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It's an ongoing journey. I actually call it a journey of self-investigation. So when you actually start taking the time to start dealing with certain things, and sometimes we don't even know that we have it, because we're walking around we're unconscious. A lot of this stuff it's in there, it's in our subconscious mind, and we don't even know it's there. And as I said, even myself, sometimes when I think my life is good and everything's great, and then something happens and I have to step back and says, okay, where is that coming from? Is that somebody else's programming I'm walking around with, or is this my program? So we're going to go through some of the steps as to, based on my investigation, what I have come to find out, and based on my own experience, because a lot of the stuff, even though I did the experience, I also had to do the work. So I'm sitting here today because I've had at least 40 years of, well, I shouldn't say 40. I started this journey probably when I was 28, because I already had my son. I started a journey of, I knew that I was special and I wanted more for myself and my son. And I knew what I was hearing from the people around me was not who I was, but I also did not, like, I had to go do the work. I had to do the work. It takes time. So for me, I journal a lot. I do a lot of mirror work, and I do a lot of self-coaching. I say to people, maybe you might need to speak to someone, but for me, I did a lot of self-coaching myself. I read a lot of books, and I call those books my mentors, because I'm reading from the people who have also solved a lot of the problems. So even though these problems can relate back to deeper situation, I'm going to keep it within the financial part of it, which is, what is the money? What is your money? What is your money foundation? So your money foundation is unique program of beliefs that you have about money, which influence your financial habits and decisions. Your money functions, your money functions are often formed during your childhood, and they influence the influential people are like your family members, society, your teachers, the government, all of those. So basically, you come out to this world, and somebody basically train you, or you basically are programmed, and we are all. So I'm not special. Everybody is programmed. Doesn't matter who you are. We are programmed from the people, from the television, from the newspaper that we read. We're all programmed. So, it's just until we become consciously aware of these patterns, that's when we know that there is something wrong, or we're feeling that things are not working for us, so we need to do something different. Your money function is often formed during your childhood, and it's influenced your family dynamic, society norms, and personal experience. It allows you to identify patterns that may be holding you back from achieving your financial success. So we live in a world of duality. Just like it's hot and cold, there's left and right, there's up and down. When it comes to us as humanity, as a human being, we live in a life of duality. So basically, we have four parts to us, four body parts. Or we're talking it where we have the mental, we have the emotional, we have the spiritual, and whatever is going on in those three shows up in the physical. So when we talk about the duality, is whatever is showing up in your physical is what's going on in the three other pieces of your life, which is the spiritual man, the emotional man, and the mental man, right? So if something is not happening that you like in the physical, you cannot go outside of you to fix it. You have to go inward. You have to make time. You have to go into silence. You have to meditate. You have to journal. You have to spend time with yourself. And that is how you're going to find out what's really going on. You know, the scriptures talk about be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that you are God. That's what the scripture's telling you. So when you become still, that still voice within yourself guides you to the right answer. We call it intuition. You know, the deep thoughts, not the thoughts where our head is saying, you're not worthy, I'm not special, you know, I have lack. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one that when you get it, there's a peace that comes with it that you know is the peace that surpasses all understanding. And that answer is always, you know what you know what you know. That's the peace I'm talking. But a lot of people don't make the time to spend time with themselves, so they don't know that voice. But that voice is always there. That inner man, that God-like person is always with us. You don't have to be a Christian to be it. You are born with it. You are a spirit that came into the earth and become flesh. It's not the other way around. So that voice, that still voice that you hear in us is always with you. You don't have to go looking for it. You have to just spend time with you to hear from it. So just as I said, everything happens twice, first on the inside and then on the outside, right? So there is the outer laws of money and there is also the inner laws of money. So the outer law of money is the business knowledge, the money management, the investment strategy, the risk management, and these are all essential. So I'm a wealth builder. I'm a licensed financial advisor, but I call myself the wealth builder. And I can teach my clients, and this is why I also feel it was important to share this with you, and also for you, if you're wondering why it is that now you're in the third time of bankruptcy, maybe these are some of the things that you need to look at your life. It's not the fact that, you know, you're in third bankruptcy. Maybe you need to step in within yourself and look back and say, what it is in my past that I have not dealt with that is now showing up in my adult life, right? A lot of the times we're trying to fix the adult, but it's not the adult that is broken. It's the inner child that is in you that is broken. The child, the small child, the past is what you need to fix. I think Bob Marley's son sang a song, you will never know your future until you know your past. And that's where we all have to go. We're like, as I said, I had to do the work. I'm still doing the work, and I will continue to do the work until I die. Because when I think that I'm got it together, something will pop up again in our making for me to go check to see, okay, what's going on. So again, if you want to become successful, and as I said, I've told you the business knowledge, the money management, the investing, risk management, all of that there is important to live in the physical. But we have to fix the inner so that what is showing up in front of us is going to be successful. And it's not a short-term successful. We're talking about long-term. So when you start to do your net worth statement, You just see the dollars and whatever you're trying. And I'm talking finances in my side because that's who I am. I'm a wealth builder. But it could be the fact that you might be looking for a husband, or you might be looking to start a family, or you want to buy a house, whatever it is. What I know for a fact is the fact that because the money is something that we have to use to live on earth, most of the times when we have blockages, it shows up in the finances. It's just that's the name of the beast, unfortunately, because you're not functioning in the capacity that you should, where it shows up there, right? And I mean, everything takes time. Everything takes time. As I said, I've been doing this since I was 28. I'm 58 now, and I'm never gonna stop. And when I think I got through what I need to get through, as I said, sometimes things pop up again, or as I call it, Nelly turns up in me again, which is my mother, right? So some of the things that you need to ask yourself when you're going through the healing process is the inner laws of money. So one of the questions I always ask my client, who are you? And I think sometimes people get to that place like, what do you mean who I am? So I was once coaching this individual, and I asked the question, who are because there was just her character at the time. She was just not, I'd never seen it before. And I said, who are you? And she just keep on complaining about how everybody is doing her something, and she's going to prove to them that she's right. And I kept saying, but who are you? And she never answered me. But when I went, so when I say the inner laws of money is, who are you? How are you thinking? What are your beliefs and thoughts? How you feel about yourself, and do you truly feel you deserve wealth? What is your ability to act despite of fear, worries, or inconvenience, despite of discomfort? So I'm going to go back to the who are you? Who are you is that when I asked that question to her that day, was I wanted her to step back and really recognize what's going on, meaning take accountability, be responsible for your actions, right? Because for me, I have a higher self within me that pulls me up when I'm out of line, when my character is not in line. And sometimes I laugh with that higher self. But because I have done the work and I'm in tune with myself, that sometimes when that inner God within me says to me, you need to take accountability for your actions, or you need to be responsible for what you just did, it kind of makes me check myself and realize that this is what I'm doing is not right. So when we talk about who are you, are you walking in your spiritual God, in your spiritual self, in your higher self, to know that whatever you're trying to do or acting out on, is you operating in the ego self, or the lower self of who you are, other than operating from a spiritual self, where you're allowing, if there's something's going on in your life, or you feel that these people are doing something, is more for you to step back. Because I'll tell you, if you want to change who you are, or you want to change the people that are around you, you first have to change who you are. You have to make changes for yourself, within yourself, so that you can become a better you. And so that is something that when I say, you have to ask yourself, who are you? The inner laws of money is very critical, and it will determine the level of your financial success. So as I said, that's the first place you go. Ask yourself those questions, and I'll be honest with you. If you become still within yourself, the answers will come. And as I said, I do the journal thing. I love my journaling. I love it because it actually allows me to look back in time and says, oh my God, this is where I was. Oh, wow, I have grown tremendously. So I love journaling. The laws of cause and effect. So I'll give you a little illustration of this. A seed planted in the earth takes root and grow. At the end of the journey, a tiny seed bloom and become a plant, a fruit. The seed is the invisible. The cause is what the seed created, the visible. The effect, which is the plant or the fruit. The law of cause and effect. In your life, your thoughts and your feelings are the seeds, the cause. What you think, fused with what you feel, the emotion, produces the effect, the condition, those things which you see in your life. Right? So, operating whether you plant positive thoughts or negative thoughts, the seed will produce good thoughts or good feelings or negative ones. It doesn't matter. It will give you in kind. So, at the end of the day, the cause, as I said, is the seed. So, what are you saying every day? Remember, I said to you about Karen. These are what Karen is probably saying to herself every day, right? She's actually feels she's no good. She's holding on to childhood trauma. She's listening. She has limited beliefs. These are the things that she is thinking every day, feeling every day, right? Because as I said, whatever you're thinking, whatever you feel, whatever your thoughts are, you're feeling them. Those are the emotion. So therefore, this is why Karen can't have the successful life that Deaver have or that she wants. Not so much what Deaver have, but her success is limited because she's holding on to all these negative things, right? All the negative stuff that she hasn't worked on is showing up in her life, and this is why she's unable to become successful. And it's not because she's a bad person or it's just that she has to work through the process. She has to heal her wounds, right? Her mother wounds, her father wounds, her insecurities, her limited beliefs. She just have to take care of those. And so those are what her financial blueprint, because of all of this, her financial blueprint is coming up to zero, or to the lack, or to the insufficient, or whatever you want to call it, right? So where do these thoughts come from? And as I explained it right here, it comes through it comes through the original files that we have stored. So Karen has had these files stored up in her head, in her subconscious mind, right? And they've been there since she was a child. So even if she tries to recorrect it, or sometimes you find that people may sometimes able to move forward, or they're able to, like, create this ego mindset and says, okay, I'm going to show you, I'm going to do this. And they end up making like maybe 200,000 a year and whatnot. And then before the next year, they end up being zero, back to zero again. And you're like, but why is that? Right? I had a neighbor that lived next to me. She won the home, one of the homes in the Princess Margaret Hospital thing. And within 3 years, she was renting again, right? Again, she had all the right thoughts to win it, but she couldn't keep it because all the other stuff, here we go again, was still there, right? She didn't understand, first had to fix certain things that were broken in herself. So right, because for her blueprint is set for renting. It's just that, right? She's just happy renting. Not that she's happy, but that's where she feels she's comfortable with. She makes 3,000-4,000. She prefer to pay the rent than actually owns a property, because to that is just a different stress that she couldn't handle, right? So it's just past programming that is within her that she's holding on to, and that's what she's operating with. So majority of time, people are asleep. They're operating unconsciously and don't even realize it, right? They're on autopilot. So they're actually operating in somebody else's program, and they're not even realizing it until they start to do the work or become consciously aware and start living in the present moment to see some of these things. Okay, how is your money foundation? How your money foundation was formed? As I said, from information we receive in the past, and especially as a young child. That plays a humongous role. Especially a child from 0 to 7, that is the most precious time for them. And so a lot of that stuff is stored from in that, and then it continues to keep adding to it, right? It's like, as I said, walking around with these weights on our shoulders every day. After a while you get tired, right? And after a while it just becomes a part of life. You think this is the way it's supposed to be. Who were your primary source of programming and conditioning? As I said before, the adults, your parents, your siblings, the authority figures, teachers, religion leaders, medias, and the culture in which we live in. Um, how was your money foundation? Well, how was it formed? All those teaching became your programming, as I said before, and your conditioning, which comes as an automatic response, which influence the financial habits and decisions that you make. Unless, as I said, you rewire and revise your money blueprint. So we are all programmed in three different ways. First, verbal conditioning. What did you hear? The other one is observation, conditioning, or modeling. What did you see? So, what did you see growing up as a child? What did you hear growing up as a child? And then the third one is specific incidents. What did you experience when you were young? So, I think we all heard this saying, for the verbal communication, which is the first influence. Money doesn't grow. Money is the root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on tree. Save for a rainy day. I'm guilty of that one. Rich people are greedy. Money don't grow on trees. That was always my mom's favorite. What am I made of? Money. That was another one my mom always say. I am broke. Life is a struggle. Those two last ones I'm going to talk about. I am broke. Now, imagine you're saying, you walk around and say, I'm broke. After, and I say this all the time, life and death is in the power of the tongue. What a man thinks eventually will come out of his mouth. What is in a man's heart? What is a man's heart eventually will come out of his mouth. Whatever he's thinking, he becomes, right? So you could say, I'm broke. You could end up with a broken heart, a broken foot, a broken life. It's not just broke money, right? The word broke, it's that our tongue is a mixing bowl. We are creators, and everything we do or say, we are creating it with our tongue. So we have to be very careful of the words that we continue to choose, because it affects how our life comes. We are the creators of our lives. We create the life that we want. Whether you want to believe it or not, we are. You could sit back and reflect and think about the things that you have said that are showing up today in your life, that you've called upon yourself without even realizing it. So we just have to be very consciously aware of how we are functioning. We just have to, right? And life is a struggle. I dated a guy once, and that was every month, and he said that. Life was a struggle. Every time I ask him, how are you doing? Life is a struggle. He needed 1,800, he needed 2,000 a month for his rent, and he was always short 200. And I used to say to him, how could you be self-employed and still short 200 every month? His blueprint was just set for 1,800. That's it. His blueprint was set for 1,800, nothing more. He did not know what to do after that 1,800 came, right? And I used to say to him, you understand you can go back out and do another deal, or, and the time he used to drive Uber, I think it was. And I said, you can just go pick up a couple more clients, right? But he just somehow, once he get that 1,800, he was stuck. He didn't know how to get even gas in the car. And I just said, no, this is not going to work for me. I even used to say to him, I would try to motivate him. He goes, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. Please don't tell me that doesn't work for me. And then at the same time, he would say to me, God turned his back on him. I'm like, okay, maybe you turn your back on yourself. So eventually that didn't work for me. And I said, no, babes, you got to go, because this is not where I'm trying to build my life. I was, and I mean, in those times too, I was actually going through my own financial struggle, because when I met him, I was in, and I could see why also I attracted this individual, because I had lost my job, and I was putting my kid through university, and I was trying to rebuild my life. And I was in the lowest dimension of consciousness in my life. I had just started back working, and I had just started to build back my life. So I was in that low vibration also. So as I said, I look back now and I could see why I attracted this person, because I myself was trying to figure out my own finances, because I was being laid off for 2 years, and I was trying to get back on my feet. And this is why I said, and to me at that time was very important who I brought into my space. So his behavior and his action and his words was not what I wanted to hear when I was trying to lift my life back from out of the pit of hell, or the the pit of the gutter, or whatever you want to call it. And see, and it's important who you have surrounding you. And his thoughts and his words was not aligning with who I was. So I said, babes, you got to go. And I quickly closed that relationship off. The second influence is modeling. What have you modeled? What was your family attitude towards money while you were growing up? How did your parents or your guardian approach your financial matters? Did they both good were they good with money? Were they able to handle their financial responsibility? Were they spenders or savers? Did they take risk with money, or were they more conservatives? Was money a source of happiness, or were they always fighting? All of those things matter, because then you'll know why sometimes you're constantly in this tug of war for financial struggle, or you're always looking for, it's like you can never, or you're always fighting with your partner, because this is what you saw as a child. You saw that as a child, and now you're repeating the same cycle, right? So this is second influence. And then, okay, and then the third one is a specific incident. So I had a client, she had a daughter, and her daughter father had passed away before she turned 18. And so he did not put a trustee on the life insurance, but she was the beneficiary. And when she turned 18, the insurance company paid out the money to her. And within 2 years, she was in more financial struggle. She literally had to go bankrupt and moving back with her mother. And what had happened here was, in her case, she saw this money, this check, as pain. She saw the loss of her father, and she somehow thought that this money is she doesn't want it because it caused her pain. She lost her dad in this situation, right? So again, what is money mean to you? You have to find that out. You have to ask yourself, what do you see? Like for me, when I was growing up, my parents were entrepreneurs. So I always, and I had to be a part of their building their business. Like when I came home from school, my mom would say to me, you can't just come home if you don't have homework. You got to come in and you have to help me. So from a very early age, I learned that money was an exchange. I provide a service and I get paid for it. So for me, and I see that all with my siblings, is that we learn very early that if we provide a service, we'll get paid for it, right? So that's what we saw. I have another situation where this young lady, beautiful young lady, I'll call her Karen, and she graduated from university. She, can get any job she wants, but she does not feel she needs to work. She's 28 years of age. And the reason why was when her mother was younger and she just born, her mother was in a dynamic relationship that she had to move back in with her parents, with the grandmother. And so what she saw was Papa, which is the grandfather, was the provider for the family. So even though this individual came back home, which is her mother, She never worked in a day in her life. So Papa was now taking care of his wife, his daughter, and now the granddaughter. So in the eyes of Karen, she feels that it's the man's job to go and work while the women stay home. So these are what specific incidents that you see that is causing you the blockage of succeeding. These are all things. I mean, these are some things, but it's an important thing. And as I mentioned before, we have four quadrants. We are four bodies. And as I said, it's the mental world, the emotional world, the spiritual world, and the physical world. The mental world is where the ego lies, often seeking validation and control, which can lead to stress, negative thoughts, and it's not managed properly, right? We can go back to Karen, and I said to you, I used to mentor Karen, and there was some such stuff going on in her life, and I asked her, "Who are you?" And her answer was she was going to prove them wrong, that she was right and they were wrong. It's because she's operated from a state of ego. Her mental state, her self-talk, her self-sabotaging is saying, telling herself how good she's good and she doesn't need anybody and blah 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 and all of that. That is the mental talk within her that is going on back and forth, that is creating who she is today. And as I said, Karen could make money, but Karen will lose all the money because Karen does not realize that she had childhood trauma that she's never dealt with, right? She doesn't feel she's worthy to have this money. Again, the emotional world is the inner child. That is the key to most of our confusion today. A lot of the times, it's not the adult that is running the world. It's the children in us, the child within us that have never been healed from the childhood trauma that is showing up in the adult life. You ever sometimes somebody's talking to you and you're like, what, that person doesn't sound, who's this person? And it's because they're like blabbling, but it's actually that pain from the inner child is showing up in their adult life, right? It's the inner child that holds the experience and the feeling, influencing our current emotional response. And I'll tell you a story of myself. For me, when I was growing up as a little girl, I used to get a lot of whippings. I mean, whippings to the point where, I love my mom, she's gone and everything, but I used to have brand. That's how bad it was. And many times you say to myself, like, why is this woman even doing this to me? Because I couldn't ever believe that I did something wrong. Like, sometimes it was the silliest things. But as I grew older and when I started to do the work, I realized that my mom was dealing with her own personal stuff. Like, for instance, the fact that her mother had passed, and so she was placed in an orphanage, and she was there for a time. So there was a lot of insecurities, and then there's just a lot of things going on in her life, and so a lot of her frustration she took on me. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what happened. But the other thing was, my mom had this way of, again, when she raised her voice, she was very bellowed about it. And, I was raised in a household where children should be seen and not heard. So when my mom started like loud talking or, trying to get my attention to do whatever she want, I didn't know at the time, I would go within myself and I would lose myself. Like, literally, I got quiet and I shied away. And I did not even realize that this pattern was showing up in my adult life. So now I'm in a relationship that I love dearly and I have a good man. But sometimes when we argue, I would go into that person and I didn't even know I was doing it. I just knew that I was in the ego stage where it's like, it's all about him. He's the one who's doing it. And I could hear the chatters in my head. And this is why I said, we always have to continue to do the work. And it got to a point where I was like really, really upset. And I was like, I'm not dealing with this nonsense because the ego is coming out, right? I'm like, why do I have to live with this kind of thing? But I knew my relationship is worth fighting for. So I went into the stillness within myself and I said, show me what it is about. Why does this keep coming up in my relationship? Why does it keep popping up? And my higher self, the God within me, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit, whatever you want to call it, showed me and said, and it brought me back to a particular moment that I could remember when I was in the shop and my mom snapped at me and I got really quiet. I remember sitting in the chair, but at this time, there was a gentleman who had come to buy poultry, buy stuff from us. And my mom had gone to the back to get the stuff. And he had said, "You did good." And I was like, "What do you mean you did good?" I said, "I didn't say anything." He said, "Yeah, you didn't answer her back." And this was why I was able to remember the Pacific incident that triggered me back to that one time when she spoke. He reminded me, or he brought me back to present, that I remember when she snapped at me, and I went deep within myself. But when I reflected now, there were many times I had done that over my lifetime with friends and whatnot. When things were getting in a certain way, I would cut off the relationship before I got hurt, because I was like, I'm going to protect myself, because that's what I was doing. I was going to protect myself before you hurt me. And so, again, this was a pattern in my own life where my inner child was turning up into the adult world and the adult in me, but it wasn't the adult was showing up, it was the child was showing up. So this is why, if you don't spend time with yourself and make time for yourself, make time to love you, right? This is why I started the self-love program, the self-love Fridays, was because, are you making time to love you? Are you making time for yourself to get to know the true you, right? So until you start to do the work, you're not going to know that these are things that need healing. And I mean, you're doing it, so I'm doing it so that I can have a better life with my grandchildren, so that I can break the cycle for the next generation, right? And then there's the spiritual world. And the spiritual man is tied into the consciousness, the peace, the peace, encouragement, growth, connection, and understanding of our all purpose in life. So if you can get those three things right, and if you can get the mental and the emotional right, then you can get the spiritual man right, and then you can get everything right. Because when you are operating from your higher self, the God self, everything is balanced, everything is flowing to you, everything is flow into you and flowing out to you, and what is not for you will flow past you, right? And that's because a spiritual man is trying to lead you to your purpose for what we were created to be. But many of us can't do what we were called to do because we're walking around with these things, right? So we can't tap into the fullness and the abundance. Like, we can have the life of abundance. We just have to do a little bit of the work. We have to stop running from ourselves and stop and just check in. Me, I love the lake. I spend a lot of time in the lake and I journal a lot. And as I said, the mirror work has been like my greatest healing tool, because the mirror work allowed me to heal myself and forgive a lot of the pains that I went through over the years. So all of that is important. It's not just about, just trying to deal with it from the outside. You have to deal with it from the inside. So as I said, those, as I mentioned, as the four pieces that you have to work through. And if you work through that, man, like, you'll have a good life. And as I said, the work never is finished. It's never is finished. So the step for change, some of the things that you can do for yourself. As I said, it's a journey of self-investigation. I'm the queen of that. One of the things, reflect on the messages you receive about money during your childhood. And you can do this for anything. But as I said, I'm a financial advisor. I am a wealth builder. You're a wealth builder. And so for me, I'm going to tap into the financial part of it. So everything I do, as I said, money is for you. And this is the reason I bring it back to what I said. This was the reason why I created Money is for You. Because I know that each and every one of us can have a life of abundance. You can have everything you want, not some things like you hear people say. You can have everything your heart's desire. But as I said, you may have to do some of the work, and that's okay also. You just have to be patient with yourself. Consider what financial behaviors were demonstrated in your family and any significant emotion events related to money. And I said to learn more about this, or if you want to, talk to me about it, you can send me an email at info@nwminc.ca. And just, we can go from there. So again, if you like this content, click the link. There's more to come, and make sure you forward, subscribe, send out to your friends. Again, reach out to me if you want to talk more about this. I will be doing some courses coming up in the fall, and one of them we will talk more about the 4 bodies, how to heal it. Talk about the chakras, because not only, and I didn't go into that, some people are still within the 3rd dimension and they're just about this religion and stuff, but we have 7 chakras in our body. And trust me, if your body is stuck and you're stuck here, it's going to affect you. And the 3 first chakras, which is the eye chakra, the throat chakra, and the heart chakra, has a lot to do with the internal. They show up in the lower 3, which is your tummy, your the solar plex, your belly, and your root chakra. That's just sometimes where you hear women have a lot of pains, or they have end up with certain sicknesses, or even men, and it's showing up in the lower part because that's your physical part. But the 3 top part, if you can get these 3 right, you can heal your body. So that's another part, a continuation of the 4 bodies, and then the chakra, and then it's about healing the bodies, and it's all about, it's, as I said, it's an ongoing work. These are things on top of what I do, and I've just connected the 2, how when your body is not in line or you're stuck, how it shows up in your finances. But there are courses that we're going to be coming soon that I'm going to be working on. Some are going to be with to do with finances, especially I want to target self-employed, small business owners, and also families, but more so the young entrepreneurs that are coming out. I have a lot to offer. I've been doing this business for 13 years. And there's a lot that we go through, prospecting, how to build. The most important part is the how to keep your fiscal organization in order. That's a course that I'm coming in. And also how to grow your income, how to grow your wealth. Some of the things that you have to do, I will start you from where you are, and just to like how we can build your financial, like your net worth statement, how to keep track of your expenses, how can, all that stuff. It's needed for you to be successful. A lot of this stuff I had to do myself, and I think it's time for me to start sharing this knowledge, because I'm a teacher. That's my gift. That's my purpose. It's to teach, it's to educate. And I'm for my community. I mean, I'm a West Indian kind of gal. I'm a Guyanese, Canadian. And my community needs me, and I think it's time for me to start giving back to the community. So we will be having some courses coming in the fall. Look forward to this. Again, if you like what you see today, click on the link, share the video, and remember, money is for you. And also, one of my other books that I need to, everybody needs this book. If you're 18 years and over, you need this book. You need this book. Like this week, I had 3 of my clients in the hospital with a critical illness. If something happened to you tomorrow, where's your stuff? Is anybody knows where your stuff is? This book will guide you. It doesn't take the place of the will of power of attorney, because you still need that. If there's monies to be collected, if you don't have a will and power of attorney, your family can't help you. This book also will help you, but you still need those things. You can get this book on Amazon. So again, get yourself a copy today. And again, money is for you, and I'll see you on the next show.